Hello, and we are in Act 3. So today we're going to start with the Plotholes, and I'm sure this is going to be one of everybody's favorite topics to discuss, Ghost Yoda, and how he drops a lovely pearl of wisdom on us by saying that Rey is ready to be a Jedi after only 3 days on a remote island with no training.
No training, yes.
Basic toying around with a lightsaber, of which she cut a rock in half.
Oh, and almost killed the people of the island, and she was just like, okay, whatever.
Where were the first powers there? Like, she couldn't sense people nearby?
Yeah, actually, that's a good point. She chopped the rock in half, and then almost killed these people. It's like, oh yeah, where were her force powers there?
And the 900-year-old Grand Master Yoda looks at that and says, yes, she is ready to take on the galaxy.
Yes. she's ready. But, and then Luke, obviously, you know. But, what do you mean? I studied with you for 3 weeks.
Yeah, but you're not a Mary Sue or Gary Stew. You know, clearly she's just way more talented than you are. I mean, what have you achieved? And speaking of achievements, since when can Jedi ghosts control lightning? Number one, I thought lightning was a dark side power. Number two...
Yeah, that was always a weird thing. He brings the clouds up from nowhere and then destroys the ancient Jedi ruins that contained the old Jedi texts, and then just says, you know, page turner. That wasn't the page. There were page turners. I mean, that's why he just destroyed the text. But I mean, it's kind of.
Why couldn't he do that to Snoke or like?
Yes,
Kylo
exactly.
Ren,
Yeah, if Force ghosts can do that, why not? Why doesn't Yoda, you know, get his posse? You know, the rest of the Force ghosts, you know, Anakin,
Obi-Wan,
Qui-Gon Jinn, you know, all of them, and just like go to Snoke and it's like, die, bitch, and then lightning bolt his ass.
It means that ever since episode 4, we should have been fine because Kenobi turned into a ghost. He should have just pitched up at Darth Vader's doorstep, ring the doorbell, and it does that Imperial March door chime. I'd like to think that's how Darth Vader answers his door. He shows up in his black robe, and he goes,
of course.
"Told you I'd be back."
Surprise, motherfucker! So I mean, I don't know. That entire scene was kind of strange. Also, am I the only one who thought Yoda looked a little bit weird?
Well,
I think he looked fine.
I think I don't know. I think my issue was that it was practical effects mixed with CG that kind of bugged me a little bit, because there was a little bit of a blue hue around Yoda, which was obviously CG, and it kind of, I don't know. For me, it didn't look too good, but I mean, it's not really a big issue. The main issue was that they kind of chose the Yoda, the jokey Yoda, you know, the one which Luke originally met before he finally revealed himself to be, you know, a Jedi Master.
We have now a good idea of how the people who made this movie watched the original trilogy.
Yes.
On VLC with their hand constantly tipping up on the mouse bar so that they only see the little snippets, and that's where it landed. Also, where's this idea that Yoda just doesn't care about the old Jedi ways anymore?
Yeah, that
he was a Jedi Master for... Okay, we have no idea how long...
How old is this motherfucker? Like, 900 or something?
900 years old.
Yeah, let's say...
900 years old.
And he's literally changed his mind.
Yeah, suddenly, magically, he's just changed his mind. Just because, you know, he's a Force ghost now, so everything's out the window.
Yeah, and he originally didn't want to train Anakin because tradition said he was too old. Several times you can see him not willing to break the rules because he knows how it is. And here he's like, oh, okay, that's boring old books and a smelly old tree. You know, this Jedi shit needs to end anyway. Lightning strike.
Yeah, lightning strike, it's gone.
But I
And how did he find the first Jedi temple either way? Like, I don't know.
Well,
This
I
is
mean,
brand new.
they kind of just gloss over that, honestly. I mean, but yeah, that is the scene with Yoda in it. It's a, I mean, it's a nice harken back to Yoda himself, but at the same time, it kind of doesn't really stick to his original character too well.
Yeah.
And the whole interaction between Luke and Yoda is still off. I mean, I understand how, Luke would be this humble in front of Yoda back in the original trilogy, but by now they're of relatively
true.
or perfectly equal rank.
Yeah,
How is
yeah.
he still speaking to
Luke is
Yoda the
supposed
way
to
a
be
Padawan
Master.
does?
He's supposed to be Master Luke right now.
Yes.
He's supposed to be actually Grand Master Luke. In the extended lore, he's supposed to be Grand Master Luke now. But no, they treat Luke like a little child. Yoda comes to him, talks to him exactly like he did back in the day. So essentially, what they're trying to say in this movie is that Luke has not grown at all, and
Yeah,
he's actually
he
digressed.
regressed.
Yeah, exactly. He digressed, and that's what we're led to believe. The guy who had all the hope in the world, like that, it makes no sense. It makes absolutely no sense that they did that.
Yeah. So, utterly ridiculous scene. I don't really see how it makes any sense, but I think we've covered. What more can we say?
Not much we can say. I guess after this scene, so Rey, this after this scene was the part where Rey actually landed on Snoke's ship, and just before that was the infamous light speed into his fleet scene.
Yes, a veritable super weapon that we apparently no one has thought of before.
Yes.
Ever.
But no autopilot either.
Yes. So Holdo says she's going to stay on the ship to lure the First Order away from the escaping transport pods that are going onto the what was it, the Resistance planet?
No, Rebel planet.
Oh, fuck. Every
told
time.
you.
I
This
know,
is gonna keep
happening. It keeps bothering me because it's
the same thing.
Yes.
The Resistance and the Rebellion are the same thing. How the ships
Are
even
the same, yes.
stayed the same.
So yeah, Holdo then gets onto the ship, even though she doesn't need to be on the ship, because there has been proof that there is autopilot in the Star Wars universe.
Yes.
Yeah.
The Millennium Falcon.
The Millennium Falcon has autopilot. The Millennium Falcon has autopilot. So
Yeah.
that means there's no excuse for this Resistance ship to not have autopilot.
Or any of the Resistance ships. If I remember correctly, the other two ships, both also, everyone transports onto the main cruiser, and then one person stays behind to nobly sacrifice themselves. Meanwhile, which still doesn't make sense because they're out of fuel. So
Yeah.
even if you didn't have autopilot, why would you even need a pilot?
Yeah, you wouldn't. Why can't they just do the proverbial put the brick on the pedal and just leave it to go? I mean, fine if they don't have.
Yeah, light speed in like T-minus 2 minutes, and then everybody leaves or something.
Yes.
Like
So
one of those.
They're obviously going for several moments where a brave soldier was willing to sacrifice themselves to a noble cause, and all I can think is, why? Why were you still there?
Yes.
It wasn't necessary. You have no
So, I mean, she's
fuel.
not going to be in episode 9 at
Oh
least.
yes, yeah. She's not going to be in episode 9 because, well, guys, remember she sacrifices herself by light speeding the Resistance ship into Snoke's fleet, basically decimating it. She decimates the fleet, and what I will say is one of the most visually stunning moments in Star Wars.
Beautifully made.
It's the best suicide bombing I've ever seen on cinema.
Oh.
pretty big.
Oh, yes.
Probably the deadliest suicide bombing
Yes.
ever shown on cinema as well.
Yes, but then that brings
Terrorists
up...
are looking at that and going, "That's so beautiful," with a single tear running down their eyes.
I mean, maybe... okay, guys, I don't know. The scene kind of just destroys kind of the previous Star Wars mythos, though, doesn't it? Because if they could have used that as a weapon beforehand, why didn't they? Why didn't they use
Well,
it
the
as...
Death Star with send a
Yes,
ship or two,
exactly.
depending on how much you
exactly.
need.
Why not send two of the Resistance? What are they called? The Resistance versions of their Star Destroyers.
That's cruisers.
Yeah, why didn't the Resistance just send two cruisers on a suicide mission? Light speed, right into it. Okay, fine. If you don't have anybody to suicide for you, what are those mechanical things called? They're droids. Why don't you just give a droid to pilot it into the Death Star if you don't have autopilot?
Exactly. The problem was the shields were up, but apparently this could light speed could probably penetrate the
Yes,
shields.
could penetrate the shields completely. I mean, you saw what it looked like.
Yeah,
It decimated
they had their
the
shields up.
fleet. Completely decimated the fleet. Completely. So at that point, you just need to wonder...
But it also just plugs into the absolute infinite and unending resources, money, and power the First Order has. Because, as I think we've pointed out earlier, but we're going to cover in depth now, the First Order goes down to the planet and deploys AT-ATs. From what ship? Because we know the fleet has been decimated, and if it's from a different ship, where did these other ships come from? It's like they just have infinite ships,
Yes.
infinite troops, infinite money,
Infinite resources, just...
It's the outer rim, everything.
Oh, yes, yeah. The outer rim, the excuse for everything in this movie.
And I know this is petty, but I actually prefer the original look to the AT-AT.
Yeah, apparently what they decided to do was they wanted to make it look more like a gorilla. Which is,
Why?
I don't know. I don't know why.
Why is a gorilla why would that look better than what we had? It looked like a massive moving tank. Why would you imagine that logic in any other war? I don't like our tanks. They don't look enough like gorillas.
So yeah, they somehow just managed to get... Oh, but guys, back to the light speed thing though. Here's a good question. Wouldn't it have been much better if General Akbar was the one who did the sacrificing? A staple of the Star Wars universe. He is a meme everywhere. Everybody knows about General Akbar, and he was relegated to being killed off screen, and then us being told by Holdo, oh, he's dead.
Yeah. This is Admiral Akbar, commander of the Rebel fleet. I know this is not canon anymore, but in Star Wars Empire at War, there's an entire mission how the rebellion sends an army to rescue him, because in their own words, even back when he was Commander Akbar, he was the best battle tactician they had.
Yes.
Somebody please shed a tear. Give a damn.
R.I.P. General Akbar. What a horrible way to go out.
But
Just
here,
what a terrible way to go.
This show, he does get the respect he deserves.
Yes, so General Akbar, R.I.P. We wish that you were the one who did the light speed ships into the First Order, because that would have been much better of a send-off. Much better of a send-off.
That's it for an iconic character, can't go out.
Oh, yeah.
He went out like a bitch, though, honestly. We didn't even see him.
Yes, but I mean, remember, later on, Luke also goes out like a bitch, but we're gonna get to that a little bit later.
They just don't know how to handle these actors. What are they now?
Everybody goes out like a bitch. Snoke went out like a bitch. Han Solo went out like a bitch. Captain Phasma also went out like a bitch.
Oh, yeah, Captain Phasma, she also went out like a bitch. They completely ruined so many characters, and ironically, old and new. And in this movie, I would argue that they also ruined Finn's character as well, because they gave him nothing to do.
But
they
that-
gave him nothing to do.
And that brings up my
but-
primary question about this movie. I can't tell if this was maliciously done to devastate the Star Wars universe, or if it's just a sort of breathtaking incompetence that now sits at, I don't know if I should call it Disney or Lucasfilm. You know, it doesn't really matter.
It's probably a mixture of both, honestly. It's probably...
Yeah. But we should get back to the points.
All
we
right,
have.
so okay. They deploy their AT-ATs on the on Hoth. Oh no, wait a second, it's not Hoth. They're just copying Empire
Yeah.
Strikes Back.
But wait. What, didn't they start this trilogy because they said they wanted to make their own stories?
Yes, they did. Meanwhile, that's all that they're just copying and pasting constantly. So they go on to the snow planet. Oh, sorry, the salt planet.
Because
Oh my
they
gosh.
took all the effort to point to us out that it is salt.
Yes.
Yes.
They go
yes.
out of their
And
way.
you think that's going to be some purpose? Like, maybe this time he's going to foreshadow something.
Yeah.
But no, this man doesn't know what foreshadow means. Like, he can't foreshadow anything.
No, we can't foreshadow shit. So yeah, they make it to the... Well, okay, the Resistance at this point make it to the...
Rebel
To the Rebel base. They make it to the Rebel base.
Yes.
And I would also like to point out, they were shot at prior by the cannons, what was it, on the Dreadnought or the Star Destroyers?
No,
Was
it
on
was
Snoke's
Snoke's flagship.
Okay, yeah,
Yes.
so Snoke's flagship can pinpoint accurate hit small transports in space, but can't hit a giant resistance cruiser
with any effect.
With any effect, because apparently it's too far, but the transports that came out of that same cruiser are not too far. So that just makes
And why not just light speed into the planet? Like, if that's the ultimate weapon now, like,
Blow up the planet.
Blow up the planet, yes. I just don't understand it.
Yes.
That makes the entire chase scene completely moot. It makes the whole chase scene pointless, because if they could have destroyed the ship beforehand, they should have just done that. If they could have pinpoint accurately hit the transports, then why didn't they just do that on the ship before? It makes no sense. But okay, fine. There is
we are also introduced to the crystal foxes at this point.
yeah, but the crystal foxes.
But like, we'll talk about them later. But
Yeah, the crystal foxes are a little bit of a...
What the hell?
So-
Show me.
Okay, so
remember the one guy who ate the salt and like, because the one guy asked him what it was, and then he like put it in his mouth.
Oh,
Like, how
right.
did he know it was edible?
oh, well, look, that's not even the worst part. He didn't even ask him. Remember, the guy just stepped, and then there was that red footprint, because the dirt underneath the salt was red, and the salt on top, was obviously
White,
white
yeah.
because it's salt. And then the guy
Yeah.
puts his finger, mind you, in the red dirt, not the
Yeah.
salt. He puts it in his mouth and licks it, and he's like, salt.
But this begs the question: is this something he does often? Because the Resistance, previously the Rebellion, had to go from planet to planet. Yeah, but you think maybe he was on Hoth and he just scooped up some yellow snow and was like, "That's urine."
That's urine.
On Felucia. Yeah, that's fungal sap. At some point, the rest of the people will probably just go, "Oh fuck, just make him stop. I can't have him licking stuff anymore. It's weird."
Damn it, Bob, just stop it. Stop it.
Surely, I'm pretty sure they just cut away. At that point, his friends must have been, he dips his finger and then, yeah, it's salt. Oh, fuck it, Bob, that's it. I swap trenches with me. Like anyone. Anyone swap trenches with me.
Is that they make it to the planet. They have time to set up the trenches, set up all the defenses that they need, and this guy only then decided to put his finger in and see what it was. So at no point prior was he like, okay, let me see what this is. So
And after he was like, "Oh, Crystal Fox it just took a dump here, I think."
it's like crystal
crystal
fox
shit.
dump.
Crystal
yeah, they go onto this rebel base
With the resistance in it.
Yes, with the resistance in it. Yes, because the rebel base has been abandoned, and they close this huge metal door that's in a mountain to stop the First Order from getting in.
What you mean, like at Hoth, where they also had a huge metal door and a base built into the mountain?
Into the mountain, yes.
Where do you think they got that idea?
I don't know. I mean, remember, Ryan Johnson said that he was making this movie so that he could, so he could be different. But then,
why copy?
Why copy then? Whatever. So, yeah, at this point, they decide they're going to bring out miniaturized Death Star tech.
Even though it's the size of something like 7 AT-ATs, so it's not really that mini, is it?
But okay.
And why not have that attached to, maybe the ship as well? Like, why is it only for land warfare?
Why don't they attach that to the ship? If they have a Death Star type gun
on a ship.
Or
yes, on the ship they could have easily hit the resistance.
Wait a second, it just occurred to me. The dreadnoughts, they're supposed to be base and fleet killers. You now know that the last members of the resistance are in the base, and they shut the door. Why didn't they just call in another dreadnought?
Yeah, I mean, because apparently they have all the resources in the universe.
I mean, maybe it was in the Outer Rim.
Maybe. So, yeah, they bring out this miniaturized Death Star tech so they can open up the metal door. And this is where the Resistance gets a fantastic plan.
Run away.
We have to go. I know we just got here, but we gotta get the
fuck out. So they send a couple of resistance people in these like salt mining sort of ships that have these antennae that go into the salt in order for them to fly.
Now, when I first saw this, I thought it would lead to something. Maybe make a mist so they can't target the thing. I don't know. I figured it might lead to something because they're lifting the salt.
Yeah. To
for some reason.
distract them. Yeah, to distract them. Maybe make the air full of dirt or salt or whatever, so that they
can't chemical reaction, even I don't know, something, right?
Something, but it really amounts to nothing. And
no, they say they need it for stability. Now, I'm not an aeronautical engineer, but I'm fairly convinced flying is more stable if you don't have something sticking in the ground.
Well, I mean, remember,
I understood if it had wheels, but that wasn't a wheel. What was that? It was just a piece of metal.
Yes, it was an antenna that was put the wrong way around. and went in.
And they just decided to roll with it. It's like, listen guys, we got all these ships, the antennas are the wrong way. Fuck it, they're expensive. We're not the Empire or the First Order. We actually have money restraints, so guess we're just gonna have to use them now.
We can make this levitate, but without this one piece of metal dragging along, it just won't stabilize for some reason.
Which is kind of strange because
when you literally see Finn lift it off, and he's flying even faster than before.
Just before Finn decides so later on in this scene, Finn decides he's going to sacrifice himself by pushing the ship.
Suicide bomb.
So that he goes straight into the miniaturized Death Star sort of tech thing. Just before it destroys the door, he decides to be a hero and a martyr. We already knew this about his character, though. We already knew this about his character because he did this in Force Awakens. He tried to sacrifice himself so that Rey could get away. He sacrificed everything, his way of life, to get away from the First Order so he could help the Resistance.
All of this undermining this idea that he was a coward.
Yes, all of this undermining, that he's a coward in the beginning of the film, which he obviously is not, because he's proven that he is not a coward, and especially now in the end of the movie, he's willing to sacrifice himself to save whatever is left of the Resistance. So, but guys, remember, he lifts the antenna out of the salt and the ship is flying fine, even though it's going through the hot energized beam at that point, just before the Death Star is firing. So why do they need?
And he's going pretty fast.
Yeah, he's going pretty fast, so it makes no
Yes.
sense. And then,
Of course, who can forget the wonderful and completely essential character that is Rose, deciding to save Finn from crashing into the laser by crashing at full speed
into
him.
Yeah, how does he catch up? Like, I thought Finn was in front of everybody.
That's the angle that they showed prior to that thing happening. They showed that Finn was by far ahead.
Of everyone else,
Everyone
but
else.
somehow Rose comes from the side.
Yes, comes from
Like-
the side. So
And somehow thought, I'm sure if I crash into him at full speed, we'll both survive.
Yeah, it's in the Force.
yes, yeah, she crashes into him, thinking that they'll both survive. Which, oh, by the way, they do.
But okay, they're main characters, and
Okay,
should
yeah.
we even mention?
Plot armor.
Should we
Yes,
even
plot
mention
armor.
this? What happens
Yeah.
after
So-
this?
Rose's reasoning for slamming her ship into Finn's ship to save him, even though she didn't know that it will save him because they could have easily died in that crash. Oh,
She gives him this long-winded and barely logical speech of, "That's why we fight, not to destroy
yes.
what we hate."
To save.
but to save what we love.
And she gives
I will
him.
save the one man who was trying to save everyone else.
Yes,
because
yes. So she,
that makes sense.
yes, so her logic is that to save the ones we love, we do this to save the ones we love. Finn was trying
To do that.
to do that. He wanted
Yes.
to sacrifice himself so that everyone else could live. That was the whole point. And Rose stopped that from happening so that she could tell him the exact same thing which he was busy trying to do. And then she gives him the most awkward kiss in the galaxy. I guess you could say.
Yes.
Where does this come from? At what point did this chemistry develop? At what scene? Was it when they were riding a horse together and it was sort of grinding up from behind? Was it?
Yeah, he must have hit it from the back a little,
Yes.
I guess.
There's
Yeah.
no build-up. There's no build-up. They show no romantic scenes between Finn and Rose Rose just is suddenly just madly in love with him. After how long has it been? Like maximum 18 hours.
Yeah.
Max 18 hours.
But Maeve, hasn't that ever happened to you? You go to a casino with someone, you see animals being tortured, kids being exploited, and all the meanwhile you're thrown in prison for a parking ticket, and all you can think is, "Holy shit, she's hot."
yes.
I think
Yes,
I think this is unending love. I think she's the one, guys.
Every Tuesday, man. Every Tuesday, like clockwork.
What happened to Star Wars? The concept of romantic build-up. It worked in the original trilogy, but prequel trilogy and this one.
Yeah.
Has Lucas or Johnson any concept of build-up, of how you have to meet someone and spend time with them before anything will develop?
Yes.
It's not a man and a woman meet up
Even
the first
Luke
time and go,
around-
"I love you."
And four-titted creature had more chemistry in my opinion.
Yeah, because the fortunate creature with the green milk was like, yeah, I expect this. He's here every day. Every
This
day.
was standard. This is standard for him. Like, but I don't know.
Oh, yes. So, yeah.
I thought Leia and Holdo had more chemistry than those two.
Yes. You know, there's actually comments on YouTube saying that Poe and Finn had more chemistry. So yeah, that just comes out
And
of
that
nowhere.
does undermine Still, and yet again, this whole commentary they try to give of, oh, we're inclusive. Look, we've got a black man. Look, we've got an Asian woman. Oh, look, they fall in love. Uh-huh. You do know that you still haven't represented any gays. You still haven't represented any asexual creatures that I'm sure exist in the Star Wars universe. So
there's no black woman other than like if you say Maz Kanata's voice actor.
Yeah, but I mean,
does that count?
No, that does not
Like-
count because Maz Kanata in the movie is depicted as
orange alien.
an orange alien. So
Yeah.
no, it
And
cannot
is a
count.
side character.
Yeah, and also as a side character. Yes, that is very
There's
true.
no
So-
alien main character. We used to have
Yeah.
a few good ones. Most of them
By the way,
floating in space
I'd like
right
to
now.
also point out, isn't it kind of strange that, I mean, if they wanted to go for the whole, uplifting the minorities and this, that, then why did they have the two minority characters falling in love with each other? Like, wouldn't it have been more of a statement if, Rose fell in love with Poe? Or if, I mean, like, they were alluding to Finn being in love with Rey in The Force Awakens. Why didn't they carry on with that? They kind of just threw that under the bus for no reason. It doesn't really make any sense.
No, but you misunderstand. Remember, Finn and Rey spent almost an entire movie together. They progressed together. They met each other when they were both nothing. Slowly, they joined the same organization together. They fought together. Nah, there's no way that builds up into love. 40-minute side quest. Now that's
40-minute side quest that happens in literally about 18 hours.
Yeah, that's where true love happens. Not suffering together, not joining an organization together, not believing in the same things. No. Rich people, horse racing,
Yeah.
and
That's
sharing
Sure,
a prison cell.
Sorry, man?
And also when Ray and Kylo Ren had, the mind meld.
Oh, yeah.
Romantic
That's
scenes.
one of the most awkward scenes in Star Wars.
It's like,
history.
ooh, you tried to kill me 3 days ago, but I like the way you look.
Yes.
Them abs.
So yeah, that entire scene makes no sense.
Like, how can a woman be attracted to a guy that she literally beat up the other day after him trying to kill her? Like,
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
they sort of
it makes
glaze
sense.
over the.
like she beat him up.
She thought he was a coward.
Yeah.
They just glazed over that completely.
Yes,
It's like,
no, they-
you're a coward. 40 minutes later, take me.
You killed Han Solo.
yes, yeah, but okay, that's a problem with Force Awakens.
Yeah.
That's a problem with Force Awakens.
So,
Okay,
yeah.
so-
At this point, Luke Skywalker comes into the picture.
Yes.
But
So yeah, Luke shows up.
it's not what it seems.
Yes, it's not what it seems. Luke shows up in the Rebel base.
They don't explain how either.
Yes, they don't explain how. He just magically comes from the back of the Rebel base, sees everybody, and
And
just-
obviously, everybody, assumes that there must be a back way to
Yes.
the base. The same back
Yes.
way that they're now going to use to run away. Again.
But yes, but remember, we'll deal with because this
We'll get to that
yeah,
point.
that ties into the crystal foxes. So yeah, Luke shows up. He hands Leia dice. These sort of dice that we have not seen in any Star Wars movie prior. This is obviously a build-up to the Solo movie that's going to be coming out. Obviously, because we haven't seen that before in any of the Star Wars movies. He kisses Leia on the forehead, and then he then goes outside to confront, mind you, what is it, about 4 or 5 AT-ATs?
Yep.
Yeah.
And this does lead to a pretty cool scene.
Yes.
Kylo Ren orders all of the AT-ATs to fire on Luke simultaneously.
Yes, but he comes out of the hole that was made by the miniaturized Death Star tech.
Yeah, which actually made a surprisingly small hole in that door.
Yeah,
now
you'd think that it would have.
about
You'd think that it would have blown up the whole hole, but okay, whatever. He walks out, and then this is where.
And then all of them fire at him. Massive dust cloud, unending lasers. Luke, like a complete and utter badass. The kind of Grandmaster Luke that we have been wanting to see for 2.5 hours now, walks out and does the classic action hero over the shoulder, one finger brush off of some dust.
Yes.
And everyone completely baffled. And I will admit too, that did baffle me.
Yes.
I found it a very good.
How did he do this?
I had so many theories in my mind. Did he deflect the bullets? Did he use the Force to create a shield? Did he dodge all of them? He has the Force speed. Did he literally do a sort of Matrix-style dodging of them?
But at this point in the movie, you're imagining all these fantastic things that it could possibly be.
But then he pulls out.
Okay, but wait. Remember,
Wait.
after Kylo sees Luke do this, Kylo then decides, okay, fuck this. I'm gonna go down and defeat Luke by myself.
After bitch slapping his general for
After
the
bitch
18th
slapping,
time.
after bitch slapping General Hux.
For the
Yes,
18th time.
for who knows how many times now it is. So
Yep.
he goes down. Now, what we need to point out, which I'm not sure we pointed out in the last section, after the battle with the Praetorian Guards, when Rey and Kylo defeated them, Kylo says to Rey, "Join me, so we can destroy everything." He wants to end the Sith. He wants to end the Jedi. He wants to end everything. And then Rey says no. Rey doesn't, because I mean, obviously she's a married student.
No,
she can never be tempted by anything. So
but it ends up with the two of them trying to wrestle Anakin's lightsaber from each other.
Yes, the original blue lightsaber that the story started with and is now essentially ending with. They're wrestling. They're pulling on each side of the lightsaber with their Force powers, so that each one of them can get it. And then the lightsaber breaks in half. And it makes a slight explosion, causing Kylo, but not Rey, to fall unconscious. Okay, and that was when Rey escaped. Was during that time frame when Kylo was unconscious. So now we get back to this fight, and this is where we finally realize here is another gotcha moment from Rian Johnson, because he all thinks we're incredibly stupid. And he portrays Kylo Ren as incredibly stupid.
As Grandmaster Luke stands in front of the base and pulls out the same blue lightsaber we saw destroyed less than 30 minutes ago. He expects us not to notice, and Kylo Ren actually doesn't notice.
He doesn't notice.
Now I know what the argument is going to be. Kylo Ren is emotional. He's angry. He didn't notice.
Actually, there's an article that came out, and IGN asked Rian Johnson about this. Why didn't Kylo Ren notice it? I have the thing right here. It says, Luke is basically tailoring this projection to have maximum effect on Kylo. He knows that Kylo's Achilles heel is his rage, and so that's why he kind of makes himself look younger, the way Kylo would have last seen him in the confrontation at the temple, and that's why I decided to bring Kylo's grandfather's lightsaber down there. The lightsaber that Kylo screamed at Rey. That's mine, that belongs to me.
But that's
But no, that
still doesn't make
That's the official answer.
That makes no sense, because Luke wouldn't have known that Kylo said that to Rey. That makes no sense. How he was halfway across the galaxy, cut off from the Force. How the fuck would he have known that Kylo said that to her?
And even if
There's
we do
no
use
way.
the argument it was supposed to trigger his emotions, we have been imagine the scene. By now you've been sitting in the cinema for 2.5 hours. You're angry. You're emotional. I was too. And both of us noticed. That is clearly a blue lightsaber. You can be as angry as you want, and you can still tell the difference between blue and green. which just either proves that Kylo Ren is colorblind
Yes.
or Ryan Johnson is an idiot.
Yes, and I think it's the latter.
Someone went full retard in this
That
moment.
actually brings up another good point. Wouldn't you think that if Luke was going to upset Kylo, remember in the flashback, just before they show Luke wanting to kill Kylo, which is something that would never happen with Luke's character because he tried to sacrifice himself to help Darth Vader, and he saw a little bit of good in him, but he was like, oh
True,
no,
true.
my nephew, my twin sister's son, who is not even in his 20s yet, I can't see any
Yeah.
salvation for him.
Yeah, he's dabbling
Yeah.
in the dark
He's
side. I
dabbling-
mean, for fuck's sake.
Yes, and
Everybody goes through a dark time in their life.
I mean, even Luke succumbed to the dark side for a small period of time to defeat Darth Vader in Return of the Jedi. Because remember, he let his anger
Yep.
control him, and then he actually had the power to defeat Vader. But after that, he came back to his senses, and he was like, no, this is not, what I need to do. And that just...
And I have one more point. If this Ryan Johnson genius theory is there, he's saying that Luke catered his projection to upset Kylo Ren. Why?
Yes,
wouldn't
it makes no sense.
Why
It's-
would? Yeah, and why would he project himself as himself? What would really upset him if he projected himself as Darth Vader?
Oh, that would have been cool.
Or no,
like-
imagine if it was Han
Imagine Darth
Solo.
Vader comes in and
Imagine
like,
if
he
it was
just...
Han Solo. If he projected himself as Han Solo.
And he
That
could
would
even
have been-
alternate. Imagine him, Han Solo, and Darth Vader. 3 projections. Now that would upset him. The one he idolized, the one he destroyed, and the one he thought was trying to destroy him.
Yeah.
So yeah, if he really wanted to push that button, but also wouldn't you think that, remember in the flashbacks, Luke stands over Kylo with his green lightsaber out, right? His green lightsaber is out. Wouldn't it be more feasible that to enrage Kylo, you'd go as how he looked like back then when he was a bit younger, with the same lightsaber that Luke supposedly tried to kill him with, even though they explained that Luke had a moment of weakness and he just put it up, but then Kylo woke up and it was like, okay, no, you're trying to kill me, and that's what essentially sent Kylo to the dark side.
Yeah, hundreds of
Even-
thousands of deaths, galactic civil war, all because of a misunderstanding.
Yes, all because of a misunderstanding that Luke would never have done in the first place, because that isn't Luke. Even Mark Hamill said he wasn't playing Luke Skywalker. He said, Jake Skywalker. Yeah, that, in the interviews with him, he said he was playing as Jake Skywalker because he didn't feel like he was actually playing Luke here, because Luke would not do that. Mark Hamill said he fundamentally disagrees with everything that Ryan Johnson portrayed about his character.
I don't know if anyone out there has played Jedi Outcast, one of the Jedi Knight series.
I don't know, maybe. But okay, I don't know, maybe you shouldn't say. 'cause we
I
don't
won't
want to
give
know.
away too much there. But what I will say, in that one, Luke Skywalker is portrayed much better. In that, there is a new Jedi Academy, obviously with Luke Skywalker as the headmaster there. Obviously, some of the students there fall to the dark side, and at no point does he try to attack them. At no point does he try to kill them.
Yes.
Most of the time, he immediately tries to talk to them. In this particular case, the student, the ones who have played it out there will know which one I'm talking about, runs away before
Yeah.
Luke could speak to him.
And
That
they
is the
become,
Luke Skywalker we know.
Yes.
If he sensed darkness in one of his students, he'd want to go to them and possibly, show them the dark side that he has experienced. Maybe take them to that dark, very scary seaweed hole. That they will go through the trial as he did. Not, he has a bad thought. Well, 30 stab time.
Yeah, that also makes no sense. So he sees that his nephew is going to the dark side. He has a moment of weakness, which it makes no sense in and of
And
itself.
we can talk about this in the character portion. We have to get back on track. I think we're making too many tangents.
But yeah, essentially, if Ryan Johnson wanted to piss off Kylo Ren, he would have made Luke look the same way he did just before he tried to kill him with the green lightsaber, because that would have made much more sense instead of the blue, because by bringing up the blue, he is essentially saying that Kylo Ren is a full-blown retard.
He went full retard.
He is completely stupid because he can't realize that 30 minutes ago, he destroyed that exact same lightsaber. The exact same one. And he expects... At this point, I knew, and I'm pretty sure most of the audience also knew, that when Luke brought up that lightsaber, they were like, oh, wait a second, that's the lightsaber they just destroyed. That's probably... That means that Luke is most likely a projection. You know, or that he's not really there, because that's what went through my mind. And I'm pretty sure that's what went through most people.
Well, through my mind, it was like as
I just thought it was a continuity error. Like, I didn't give the movie that much credit. I thought they just fucked up.
Yeah, I actually also went through this. I first thought to myself, okay, either he is not really there, or that is a continuity error, or he's just, or somehow he now has a different lightsaber. It's one of those three options.
Yes.
It was never any other option other than those
But after
three.
the first swing from Kylo Ren,
But after the first
immediately
swing,
knew he was a projection.
So
no lightsabers actually hit each other in this movie. That makes
during this fight.
yes, or this fight. That makes this the only Star Wars movie in history.
So why even project a lightsaber? Why not just go full dodge mode on him?
Yes.
Like,
Yes, if he was going to do that, why not? But yeah, that means that this movie is the first Star Wars movie in history that did not have a lightsaber duel. A proper lightsaber duel.
And if everyone remembers that bright red button that Ryan Johnson keeps on his desk for turning physics on and off,
Yes.
he seems to push that button quite a lot when it comes to the physics of this projection. I mean, he puts tangible dice in Leia's hand. He gives Leia a tangible kiss on the forehead, but then he has to dodge the lightsaber when Kylo Ren is trying to fight him, because it will go right through him.
Yes.
so the way Kylo Ren finds out that this is a projection is Luke Skywalker. You might feel deja vu at this moment, but he goes full Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Yes, he does.
If you strike me down now, I will become even more powerful, blah, 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 right?
Yes.
And, Kylo Ren's like, full retard mode.
Yes.
And he tries to strike him.
Yes, yeah. He slices through
And
him,
it
right?
just...
Yeah, he slices
It goes
through
through
him.
him.
Yeah, goes through him, and that is when everybody realizes, oh, okay, because that's when they show Luke sitting on a stone back on the island, where he, in inverted commas here, trains Rey.
Yeah.
And he's sitting on the stone, and he's been projecting himself through space and time, which brings up one point in Act 1. They actually show Luke's X-Wing in the water.
This is how most of us figured he came back.
Yes, just so that they can trick you. They do this just so that they can trick you, so they can say, gotcha again, Luke's not actually there.
We could use foreshadowing, but we won't, because you expect us not to. It's like, we expect you not to do that because, only bad movies do that. Like...
Yes, exactly. So... yeah, the entire scene then ends with Luke on that rock, on the island,
staring out at the two suns.
Yeah, but he then, despite the fact that he did this, that he wasn't there, he then dies from exhaustion. He stares out at the two suns.
He didn't lose.
Yes.
But he didn't, win either.
Yeah, so he didn't lose. But he didn't win because Kylo got what he wanted. He killed Luke indirectly. He killed Luke indirectly.
Exactly.
Yes. And
So
it ends
I wouldn't even
with-
give that as a win to him. Like that's still a loss for Kylo Ren, in my opinion.
Yes, and
Like,
this brings up a good point. They end Luke's chapter. He is there on the rock. He's looking at the sunset, and there is a dual sunset. In A New Hope, the dual sunset represented the beginning of his journey. You know, he was looking at the dual sunset, and that represented the beginning of his journey. And then in the end over here, he was looking at the dual sunset, and then Ryan Johnson, being, thinking that he is the genius that he is, decides, okay, no, we're going to end it with him looking at the dual sunset, and he's going to die like that. So he dies like a coward, like in the
he
worst...
dies the same way Obi-Wan died. But Obi-Wan died by being hit with a lightsaber.
There's a difference, though. Obi-Wan was there. He was
He was there, and a lightsaber cut him.
Yes, but he was there. He didn't project himself. He was there. He didn't go out like a bitch. He wasn't being a coward. He said, okay, I'm going to go there and face this alone. If they ended with Kylo Ren cutting you see, I'm getting because of how similar it is. If it ended with Luke being cut in half, and then Luke was looking at the sunset on that salt planet.
No, the island. Remember?
No, but remember, I'm just saying if he was actually there instead of the island.
Okay.
I would have been much better, because then at least it would have been, okay, this is how it should end. He's not going out a coward. He is there. He tried, That would have been much better. I mean, even though Luke still was portrayed terribly in the movie, at least it would have ended better for his character. Instead of him just being on the island, he was a coward, he didn't go there, he looks into the sunset, and then he just vanishes because he died of exhaustion. Exhaustion.
What I would have liked to have seen is, Kylo Ren actually kills Luke Skywalker, then Luke Skywalker comes back and does a lightning attack like Yoda.
I'm also
That makes sense. They brought it up in the movie.
They did bring it up. They did.
I'm also starting to notice that the Skywalker family are really bad with dealing with very simple emotions. Luke Skywalker dies because he's tired. His mother Padme died because she was sad.
Anakin went to the dark side because
he was depressed.
Yeah, depressed, yes.
His nephew can't tell color because he's angry. I think there's a genetic defect there. They just basic human emotions, and the Skywalker lineage just doesn't seem to handle it well at all.
A little bit. So yeah, that was the end of Luke's character. He goes out the way no one wanted him to go out. They portray him terribly as Luke, and they kill him off terribly in one of the most heinous. This wasn't a twist. This was not a twist.
No, this was epitome of a tell me how brilliant I am.
Tell me how brilliant
I am.
Exactly. It was a terrible sidestep to what we would have expected. Because he builds it up so well, with Luke just brushing off the dust off his shoulder after being shot at by 4 AT-ATs, and then gotcha, it was just a projection the whole time.
Yeah. And how did he give the dice to Leia if it was all a projection?
You see, then people are going to point out. People have actually pointed this out. They said that it's because Leia is so in tune with the Force. She's so Force sensitive.
Bullshit.
Kylo.
Bro, she used the Force.
He is Kylo. They keep saying how powerful Kylo is. Snoke even mentions how powerful Kylo is. So if that was true, then shouldn't have Kylo been able to cut through Luke?
And also, and how's Kylo powerful? He's gotten his ass kicked in 2 movies now. Name me
He
one
hasn't
battle he
won a
won.
single fight.
Yes, he hasn't son. Yeah, he hasn't
Except
won.
against Finn.
Yes, he hasn't
And
won.
Finn doesn't have force powers.
Yes, yeah, he beat Finn. Oh wow, he
Yeah.
beat Finn. He beat Finn. The character
And a
doesn't have
disarmed
force
Jedi.
powers. Yes, a disarmed. He beat Finn. Finn had no training. He wasn't force sensitive, but somehow that is like that. Ooh, that's a big win for Kylo for beating Finn. It's
Kylo
like,
showed one moment of promise when he stopped that blaster beam in midair.
yes, in the Force
And
Awakens.
then never again has he showed any amount of power. The only Jedi he
Yeah.
killed was a disarmed one. He gets his ass kicked by Rey, Snoke, and Luke. And he's unable to fulfill any direct order given to him by his master.
Yes. So they completely ruined
Yeah.
his character essentially.
So this power point of all this was Luke was supposed to divert their attention for like how long?
Oh yeah,
Did he
yeah.
divert their attention?
Yeah. He
10 minutes
came there-
maximum.
Oh, yeah.
So like they're exploring these caves, these intricate caves, and Luke is like, "All right, I'll give them a 10-minute head start. That should be enough."
Yes. So
like-
that brings up another.
Yeah, revolving around
Yes.
the back door
Yes, so-
that they don't know exists.
Yeah. So the logic here
Yeah.
is. The logic here is. Oh, and this is actually a good time as well to bring up Rose again. Going back to her original plan, where she was like, "No, we don't die."
Destroy what we hate, we save
we
what
don't,
we
yeah,
love,
exactly. She did not know that Luke was going to save them because Luke shows up after this ordeal. So Luke saves them all, but she had no way of knowing this. So she could have essentially, with her act, have killed
There is
everyone if Luke didn't show up. So yeah, and
I hope she dies. I'll be the first to say it. They didn't show if she was alive. Just let her
oh,
die.
but yeah, then that also
Yeah, how
brings
did they
another
get
point.
back?
That
Like,
brings another
they were
point.
so far away.
Yes, exactly. They were all the way, like at the mini Death Star, essentially. They were all
Yeah,
the way over there,
like their
broken
vehicles
down,
crashed.
just broken
Like-
down ships, and
He's
And-
no, it's okay. I'll
yeah.
make a makeshift stretcher, and I'll just pull her there.
somehow,
no
yes,
bigs.
somehow they made it all the way back to the rebel base without anything. Like they made it back in the span of about 10 minutes, where it took the ship to get to that area like a good 10 minutes of the movie. So how the hell did they get back past the AT-ATs that were standing in front of the entrance? It makes no sense. So yes, okay, fine. Finn and Rose make it back to the rebel base somehow, and then the rebels, the resistance there,
Yeah.
think to themselves, okay, Luke came from the back of the base. They should have he must have come through a back door somewhere. But they don't know that Luke is a projection. So that means they're basing their entire plan of escape on the fact that Luke was actually there when he wasn't.
So the resistance escapes because of luck.
Yes.
The crystal foxes, they knew how to escape.
Yes.
So the resistance followed them, thinking it was how Luke. And by the way, when they got to the dead end, they didn't question how Luke got in.
Yes, they didn't question how Luke got in because when they get to the end where the foxes got out, it was essentially a part of the mountain had crumbled down, and there were just
Yep.
giant boulders there with these holes in them where the foxes could fit through.
So how did they get past these boulders that like are so big?
Well,
Well,
yeah.
we see.
Yes, exactly. Well, okay. Well, what happens prior? Remember, the Millennium Falcon comes down from the sky.
Yeah, it's from the sky, and then it touched down on the top of the mountain or whatever.
Oh, no, but
and
remember,
then,
there's a chase scene though. There's-
oh yes, that chase scene.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah, I don't know why they chased them so intricately through the thing. It's not like they were trying to get away. Like, if they just stood around the area where the base was, like, that's where the Millennium Falcon is intending to go. So, like, I don't, because most of them died because they crashed into, like, the thing in the cave. Like,
Yes, yeah. So what happens is the Millennium Falcon comes down from the sky to interrupt the what was it? Was it the battle with Luke or no? It wasn't the battle with Luke. It happened just before the battle with Luke because Kylo Ren says, "Blow that." I mean, what did he say? It didn't say.
There were a
shit.
bunch of TIE fighters that were brought
Yeah.
in as reinforcements to destroy the speeders, the one that needs salt to be
Yes.
stable.
Oh, yes.
And then the Millennium Falcon drew
came
them off.
and drew them off. Yes. So then there was a chase scene with the Millennium Falcon and these TIE fighters, and then once the Millennium Falcon wins, and this is the only time we see Chewie do anything throughout the movie. Chewie,
other than attempt to eat a porg.
yes, other than to attempt
earlier.
to eat a porg, yes, and yeah, so yeah, the porgs made Chewie a vegetarian now. Apparently, I don't know because he didn't eat the porg which he already cooked. So, but okay, whatever. Chewie does the only thing which he does in the movie, and that's pilot the Millennium Falcon, which is the only believable thing, by the way, in most of the movie, because yes, it makes sense that Chewie knows how to pilot the Millennium Falcon through these very narrow corridors so
Yeah.
well because he has been with Han for God knows how long.
Yeah, he's done it before.
Yes. So
So
makes sense.
now they kill everybody pretty much by luck.
yeah,
Like
okay,
all
yeah,
the
they,
TIE fighters.
they kill all the
X-Wings,
TIE fighters.
Yeah. TIE fighters, yeah.
Yes. And and the Millennium Falcon okay, Rey feels the Force
Again.
again. She finds exactly where everybody is behind that giant stack of boulders.
Again.
Yeah.
Okay, and she lifts them up. She just
Yep.
lifts them up without no prior training. I'd like to point out with her training with Luke, she lifted up pebbles.
Yeah, maximum 100, maybe 200 grams worth
Yes,
of pebbles.
worth of pebbles, and now suddenly, I don't know where,
Like tons of
like
rocks.
tons. I would probably say tons. Plural.
Yeah.
Because it's essentially half of a mountain was crumbled down, and she lifts up all the rocks, and everybody escapes onto the Millennium Falcon.
Now, we've never seen someone use the Force this strongly before. Like, Yoda managed to lift the X-Wing. But that, like, I think the X-Wing
The X-wing
was
not
not
as heavy.
as
No.
these boulders.
No. Yes. The only time we ever saw something as powerful was, unfortunately now in a non-canon thing with
The Force
the Force Awakens, which used to be canon.
Sorry, no. The Force Unleashed.
Yes. Sorry.
That's where
Force Unleashed, yes.
Starkiller.
Oh, okay, that's a video game.
Yes. It's a video game
That doesn't
on
count.
the PS3. But the thing is, it doesn't count, but it was considered canon before Disney took over.
Yeah.
It was considered canon
And there
before
he
Disney took
displays some proper Force powers.
Yeah, like really powerful force powers, way more than even Rey does. But I mean, essentially, when they got the license, they just,
That's a video game, though.
yeah, exactly. It is a video game, unless you are completely part of the Star Wars universe and you are in, you read the comics, you play the games, you watch the movies, you wouldn't know about this. So. It's best
I
if
think
it's
all we
best
can
if
say
if
is
it's
if
just
you're-
the movies. The movies have never.
It doesn't excuse the movie.
Yeah, it doesn't
at all.
excuse the movie. The movies are supposed to be one entire entity in and of themselves because most people
Yeah.
are just going to watch the movies. And in the movies, they show Rey just magically going from lifting pebbles a couple of hours ago to lifting essentially a collapsed part of a mountain.
Yep, and everybody enters the Millennium Falcon, and
Yeah, all 40 of them that remain.
yep.
Yes. So yeah, they all get into the Millennium Falcon, and they they get away, and that is essentially the end of the movie. Bar this, though,
Yeah.
what happens is they escape the planet, and then they go back to the side story. The side story where the children are enslaved and the animals are in their cages and etc. And the one guy who's controlling the children tells the one child to go outside and broom up. And then the child goes outside, and then he now uses the Force, and the broom comes into his hand. And he has the ring of the resistance, which Rose gave to him prior for some reason.
Yeah.
And then he stares into space, and that's how the movie ends, in the most ridiculous fashion ever. The whole point essentially,
and even the title of the movie is misleading. The Last Jedi. Rey's there, and we've now seen that the child is Force sensitive.
Yes.
So we're down 1, up 2.
Yeah, it makes no sense. So yes, essentially Rian Johnson's whole point of the movie, because the way that movie ends, there's no other thing that I can possibly think that he was trying to do here, was to make it so that every person can feel like they can be a Jedi. Because remember, his whole point was that Rey is the daughter of nobody. And now this kid on some random planet has now enough Force powers to lift a broom, which, by the way, goes against even this new trilogy, because Rey, as powerful as she is now, even in The Force Awakens, she wasn't able to move anything. She didn't know she was a Jedi at all.
Like, the other day she could barely move pebbles, and then she could move giant rocks. So this kid can move a broom.
Yes, this kid
imagine 2 days later he's going to be able to pick up entire houses.
He'll move planets.
Yeah.
Yeah, 2 weeks from now. 2 weeks from now.
2 weeks from now he'll move planets.
Thousands of years of Jedi training, just for most of the people to achieve even a fraction of that. Turns out, according to Rian Johnson, Force is easy. A kid can do it.
Yeah, it's all about potential. You don't need training.
You just have to believe.
Yeah. You just need to believe, and you just need to be Force sensitive, and there you go.
Yeah.
There you go. You're fine. You're good. You have
the
everything.
typical Disney plot point.
Yes.
Everybody's loved. Everyone's beautiful. Everyone is special.
Yep.
Give us your money.
Yeah. So that is how the Last Jedi ends.
So yeah. To summarize, I guess the movie, you could say, they'll fall in love, Kylo Ren and Rey, but not really. Maybe Luke is evil because he tried to kill the guy, but not really. Maybe Rey's evil. I don't know.
Remember, dude, we need to this. These are all gotcha moments, which we can do in a. We will do that in a gotcha moments section after this act.
So
but nothing really seems concise.
Yes, nothing is concise. Everything happens and doesn't happen at the same time.
Yeah.
And that's essentially what the movie is. It feels like Rian Johnson was scared to do anything, and when he did try to do something,
he did badly.
He did badly on everything that he does. And the movie portrays all of its characters very badly, ironically including Rey.
Yeah.
Because even Rey doesn't really have a story arc in this movie. The only thing they show,
Rian Johnson does not know how to use foreshadow at all.
No, not at all. He doesn't foreshadow anything well.
He doesn't know. He builds something up and then leads to nowhere.
Yeah.
Because gotcha.
Yeah, gotcha. And a lot of the time, people like to point out, because this actually did happen. Rian Johnson apparently was writing the script during the making of The Force Awakens.
So he wasn't actually watching the movie he was supposed to follow up. That explains quite a lot.
Yeah, so he was writing the script while The Force Awakens was being made. So that actually brings up a good point then. So was he just writing the script, and then while he saw, all right, J.J. Abrams is pointing that Rey might go to the
Like,
dark
look at all
side.
these great foreshadowings.
Yeah, look at all
like
these great foreshadowings. I'm going to
like Knights of Red.
Yes.
Kylo Ren having to practice with Snoke in the next movie. Who the fuck is Snoke?
Yes.
Like all this shit. Like, but then it's like, this is so interesting. I bet I can make it more interesting if I make it lead to nowhere.
Yes, and that's what it feels like. It feels like he took all these amazingly built up plot points. Like, okay, you can say what you will about The Force Awakens. It was essentially a clone copy of A New Hope.
I think we can all say that we all liked it.
Yes, like, I personally thought it was a pretty good movie. It didn't meet up not at all to the original trilogy.
Yeah.
It did a good job at building up the new characters, which is actually what I wanted to see originally from The Force Awakens. I wanted to see the old characters, but I knew that they needed to be relegated to a secondary role because this is a new Star Wars. It needs new characters. Yeah. And J.J. Abrams did a good job with that, you know?
Honestly, he surprised me. I thought it was going to be worse.
Yes, J.J. Abrams did a good job. He built up the new characters very well. Finn was he was the most relatable character in The Force Awakens by far because he made mistakes, but he learned from them. He built his character. His character went through a proper arc. He really felt like the most relatable character in The Force Awakens. And even with Rey, I watched The Force Awakens, and even at the end of The Force Awakens, I did not think that she was a Mary Sue. Because like a lot of the things you can explain, a lot of the things you could have explained, she beat Kylo because he was injured. That makes sense, you know. There was a lot of things that made sense, and then in The Last Jedi, Rian Johnson threw it all away. Suddenly, she's now able to keep up with Kylo Ren while facing the Praetorian Guards and even saving him, which proves that she is a better lightsaber user than Kylo, which means that she would have won in The Force Awakens again.
Yeah, imagine trying to power scale like the people in these movies. Like, you can't get an accurate reading for anybody. Like,
no, you can't get an accurate reading for anybody, and that's just how Rian Johnson decided to write this movie. And to quote a line from The Force Awakens from Han Solo himself, "That's not how the Force works."
Yes.
He actually, so I'd like to bring that up to Rian Johnson. Go and watch The Force Awakens, because Han Solo actually says that isn't how the Force works, and you obviously don't know how the Force works. You're making everybody suddenly be super good at the Force.
With no training. That kid can pick up a broom without any issue. Meanwhile, even Luke and Rey didn't know they even had Force powers until, they needed to have Force
until they left the planets that they were on, essentially. That's only.
It's like, I could use the Force, but I've never been in a situation where I needed it, so
which makes no sense, because this kid, he just picked up a broom.
Yes. How did he learn that?
He didn't.
Look, this is
is his midichlorian count that high?
This is ultimately a Disney film, and every Disney film always has a moral or some kind of lesson it wants to teach you. But for the life of me, I can't figure out what it is.
Yeah.
This Kennedy woman that was micromanaging it, Rian Johnson,
Kennedy,
Disney. If they were trying to teach me something, what were they trying to teach me? That you can ruin a franchise in one movie? Because that's the only thing I learned. All I learned from this movie was I was right when I said Star Wars should have ended with the original trilogy. I know that's not a popular thing to say or think, but I firmly believe that Star Wars should have had the original trilogy, and everything else should have been games, graphic novels, and short stories.
Expand on it if you will, or if you have to do another trilogy,
Do a different time
do a
period that's
different
completely
time period.
disconnected.
Yes, exactly.
Completely
Don't use
disconnected.
The same characters. Why use the same characters? Just
Yeah.
go to a different time period. Use Knights of the Old Republic. It's a whole story written for you. Like, it's so easy to find new
Or
stories.
even one of the more popular books. Like, I never read any of them, but like some of them must have been popular
They
enough.
were awesome.
Yes.
And that's another issue that brought up. The Force Awakens was a copy of A New Hope. The Last Jedi had many throwbacks to the Empire Strikes Back. The whole
But
hot
also,
scene.
and
Return of the Jedi. So if you're gonna use the same stories anyway, disproving there we want to make our own original storyline. If you're going to copy and paste the story, use the original after the original trilogy story. They were well thought out, very good stories. Or, yes, even better, go to the Old Republic. We've had 2 games, one of them good, about the Old Republic.
And an MMO.
Yes. So, no, they could have done much better with this, but Disney, being Disney, they had to put like the problem is by adding all of this political mumbo jumbo into the actual story of Star Wars, they immediately date the movie. The movie's going to be dated. In about 10 years from now, none of this is going to be relevant. They dated the movie.
They did.
They did. In the original trilogy, it's not dated because it's something that every person can sort of relate to. That's what made Star Wars so good in the first place. The prequels, okay, well, we all know what happened there. Lucas didn't do too well there either, but I would argue that every one of those movies is better than The Last Jedi, because at least those movies actually...
Last Jedi, worst Star Wars movie ever, in my opinion.
Yes, in mine as well.
Yeah. And all of this just reiterates Lucas, Disney, Johnson, nobody wanted to make these movies. And it shows.
Oh, no.
Right?
Yeah.
Johnson
No,
didn't
let's
want
be
to make
honest.
this movie. Lucas didn't want to make the original trilogy. Nobody wanted these movies to be made. The fans did, yes.
Well, you're talking about the prequels.
The
though, 'cause
prequels
Lucas
and
definitely wanted the original trilogy to be made.
But not
however,
the
I would
prequel
argue.
trilogy.
Remember, Disney definitely wanted the new movies to be made, and so did Kathleen Kennedy, because they needed
No,
to get
they
back
just
their
wanted
investment.
money to be made.
Yes, they wanted their
saw Star
investment.
Wars and
Yes.
realized they can shove anything into it and it will sell. I'm willing to bet that this movie was a bet.
But
They
I
just
mean,
went-
even still, like, you can't tell me that a good movie would sell worse than a bad movie if the same marketing tools were used.
Yes,
Like-
but why would you put the same effort into 2 different products if you knew one of them was guaranteed to sell and the other one needed effort? Disney is throwing all of their money and talent into Marvel
Yes.
in order to make sure that those movies...
We might dedicate an episode to Marvel eventually as well.
Yeah. But Star Wars was guaranteed. So, yes, it probably could have sold better, but it was going to sell. They've made their money back with the Last
the
Jedi.
main issue.
So they didn't
Look,
need
they
to
recently got back their
relegate
money.
anything.
They recently got back their money with the Last Jedi, but Kathleen Kennedy does not know what she's doing as the CEO of Lucasfilm,
Okay.
and Ryan Johnson was merely hired as a patsy, as a person that she could micromanage and control to make the story the way that they wanted it to be. And that is essentially what it boils down to. The Last Jedi was disappointing in every facet, mainly because of complete and utter disregard and disrespect for the Star Wars franchise as a whole and its...
Yes. So about 3 hours worth of potholes, if you kept count.
Yes.
And
And
yeah, we're about halfway.
yeah, we're almost there. We're almost done with this giant podcast review of The Last Jedi. This brings us to the end of Act 3, and next we're going to be tackling the gotcha moments. It's going to be a short segment. We're going to just pinpoint all the gotcha moments where Ryan thought that he was being smart, but he wasn't.
Surprise, motherfucker.
And after that, we're going to move to the characters of Star Wars. We're going to pinpoint all the issues and problems there. And then we're going to give you our thoughts on what we think the movie should have been like, how it would have been better, and how it would have been saved. So yeah, please join us next time for, I guess, part 2.
Yeah, we will cover a little bit more in detail the characters, like you said, and yeah, I'm hoping each of us will give, hopefully a different opinion about what the Star Wars franchise is and where we should have taken it. Hopefully, Disney is listening, and maybe one of our stories
will
finally get so. Even if it's fan fiction, I don't care.
Yes, because Last Jedi felt like fan fiction.
Very bad fan fiction.
Yes, it did. All right, so hope you enjoyed.
Yes.
And
this is episode 1.
This is episode 1, and please join us for part 2 of our extensive podcast review of The Last Jedi next time, where we focus on the characters.
Now, we mentioned a lot of gotcha moments.
Surprise, motherfucker.
While we were talking about Plotholes, but now we're gonna bring them all together in one, you'll see, one way. So the first gotcha moment we got is when Rey gets to Luke's planet, where the first temple is, and we see Luke's X-Wing there. But, you think maybe something will happen, but no, it's just there, so... That's the first gotcha we got.
All right, the next gotcha that we got is just the general lack of any homage to Admiral Akbar. And so you think he's going to go out in a blaze of glory, one of the most iconic Star Wars characters. Oh, no, huh? Gotcha.
And then, of course, who can forget the big... Lord Snoke gotcha moment. We only saw him in a hologram in the first movie. In this movie, he was in command, in control. You thought, okay, is he gonna tell you where he comes from? What's his backstory? What's his motivation? Gotcha, he's dead.
Yeah.
And before this movie started, there were some talks that Rey might go to the dark side. I saw a poster with Rey being in some red getup, so that was some potential foreshadowing. But no, this was just another gotcha moment.
Yeah, she did know. She was just a Mary Sue again.
Yeah.
Then Finn wanting to sacrifice himself to save everybody. He's just about to do it. He's just about to save everybody. Oh, no. Gotcha. Rose needed to save him for some reason.
And then, of course, the biggest plot twist, as Ryan Johnson would call it, but it's ultimately just a big gotcha. Luke not being there. He deliberately tries to foreshadow that he's there. The tangible kiss, the tangible dice. So no, he wasn't there. No, he's just chilling somewhere.
And in the previous movie, the Knights of the Ren were also mentioned. So we thought, okay, this, they're probably going to be in the second movie. I doubt they're going to just cram them in the last movie. But no, you'd be wrong. They got you.
All right, yeah. Okay, let's see. This one isn't too much of a big issue or a big point. However, it is just tradition at this point with most Star Wars movies that in every Star Wars movie they say, I got a bad feeling about this. And they even said it in Rogue One. So yeah, gotcha.
And then what Star Wars trilogy won't be complete with some of the main characters maybe falling in love? Maybe there's some chemistry that no, gotcha again. No, they set it up in such a way that maybe Finn and Ray, there's something they gotcha. It's, he loves it.
Yeah.
I think it gives him a little too much fun.
Yeah.
And again, we thought maybe Luke will go to the dark side. Like mentioned before, there were talks that, Luke maybe is exploring the dark side. This wouldn't be the first time we see it from him, but nope, we were wrong again. He got us. He got us good.
Okay, let's see. There was also the chance that Kylo Ren was supposed to go to the good side, because they were alluding to it throughout the movie that Rey might be able to turn him, and we all thought that when he killed Snoke, he's maybe going to go to the dark side. Oh no, wait, gotcha. No, that doesn't happen.
And then, of course, the thrilling build-up that we've been having for 2 movies now. Who is Rey's parents? Are they? Is she secretly Kylo Ren's brother? Somehow a cousin? Maybe she wasn't born from parents and was brought into this world similar to the way Anakin was, without a father. Or maybe he was this ancient and noble Jedi master. Gotcha. It's nobody. Don't see him, don't talk about him, and she takes it as if it's, someone sent her a spam email. Just brushes it off and continues. Yeah. Got me again.
Now, Carrie Fisher died last year, so we know she was alive while this movie was filming. So a lot of us thought, like, okay, she's probably going to die in this movie considering she died in real life. So when we saw that, her ship got shot up and she went into the vacuum of space, we all thought, okay, this is it. This is the last scene we see Leia ever. Like, okay, it looks pretty cool, but nope. Out of nowhere, she gets force powers and she Supermans herself back into the ship. So, yeah, he got me good. This was definitely a gotcha moment. So, yeah.
Then they alluded to a possible team-up between Kylo Ren and Rey. And Kylo says, join me, and we'll rule the galaxy together. We'll destroy the dark side and the light side of the Force. But no, that was too much, because Mary Sue can't go to the dark side. So yeah, no, gotcha.
And then this last one is a sort of a double-barrel gotcha moment. Del Toro, amazing character, amazing actor. You could tell he put his effort into it. Well played, well executed. But just you thought Del Toro's going to be in the movie. Is he going to be an amazing character? Is he going to be a wise Jedi? So gotcha. He's just a side character, gambler, wasted our time, wasted our effort. And I like to think that maybe there's a bit of a personal gotcha there. Who knows? I'd like to think Del Toro was really looking forward to it. He's like, oh yes, awesome, Star Wars. I'm in a Star Wars movie. What am I going to be? Am I going to be a diabolical smuggler, like undermining both sides, getting fabulously wealthy? Yeah, I'm what? I betray them, and I could leave. Oh, you got me, man.
So yeah, he got Del Toro.
He got Del Toro. He went to Del Toro and he gave him a personal gotcha.
I'm pretty sure he only knew about the gotcha once he got the script.
It's like, oh, shit. I shouldn't have signed the contract yet.
I mean, I'm sure when Del Toro got the check, he was like, gotcha.
Yeah, when he finally got the check, he went up to Ryan Johnson.
Gotcha. Filled up his pockets with those little pie hot dogs on his way out. Got in his car and
so yeah, that's roughly all of the main gotcha moments.
Yeah, if anyone can think
Last
of
Jedi.
another one that we somehow missed,
Yeah, if
you can
anybody
leave
can
that
think
in
of
the
another
comments.
one, yeah, leave that in the comments. We'll give a shout out later for whoever finds
if
another
it's a
one.
particularly good
Yeah,
one,
if it is a
one
particularly
of those
good
that
one,
can
we'll
really
definitely-
make you laugh or just make you sit there going, Johnson, I swear, do that one more time. He must have been a horrible friend in school because he plays weak practical jokes and then people just reach up and they go, Johnson, I swear to God, do that one more time.
I mean, can you imagine if you ask him as a friend, "Hey, dude, listen, can I borrow some money?"
He gives you 100.
Yeah, he gives you 100. You go and go and spend it. It's like, "Oh, sorry, sir, this is a counterfeit. Oh, sorry, we're gonna call the police. You're in jail." He comes to visit you. It's like, gotcha.
Yeah, he was the type to like purposely give people the wrong answers on tests just to see if they would write them down.
You know, I can imagine him doing that. I really can.
It was like, wait a minute, but you got 100% of the test. How did I get an F? He was like, well, I got you.
Gotcha.
Those long exams with 300 marks. Oh, he must be getting gotcha moments.
But all right, yeah, guys, that brings us to the end of part 1.
Yeah.
Yeah, the end of part 1. We really hope that all of you guys enjoyed it. You know, like
If there was something.
What's coming up next is the characters, right?
yes. Next, we're going to be doing part 2, and we're going to be talking about the different characters.
What we liked about
What we liked about the movie as well, the pacing overall, and also where we would have gone.
Yep, and maybe we'll even say if we liked certain parts of this movie, but I don't know.
Yeah. That'll
I
be a
don't
very,
know.
very short segment, though.
Yeah.
That'll be a very, very short segment. So, yeah, thank you for watching us. Like, comment, subscribe. If you feel like supporting us, please do.
And hopefully we see everyone back in part 2.
Back in part 2.
Yeah.